Hey there, howdy, good morning, especially to a new batch of subscribers that I just got. First order of business, I guess, is to say thank you to Witsky Man and Only When Provoked for featuring me in their recent video about their favorite political vloggers, which I guess is what I am. I'm a political vlogger. God, I hate that term, vlogger, vlogger. There's just no good way to say it, honestly. That just V and L don't belong together. But the second order of business, I just kind of wanted to do, I guess for me, is sort of a fun video. Something I've been thinking about for a while, about how we could have won the Iraq War. And, you know, you're probably thinking at this point, you know, what do you got left now? About 9 minutes, you know, that's a lot of mess to undo in 9 minutes. But honestly, my idea for how we win the Iraq War is, you know, pretty simple, actually. First thing we do is, okay, we go in there and, well, actually, wait a minute. Before we go anywhere, let me first say, as a disclaimer, that I don't think there should have been any Iraq War. Now, I don't think it was a good idea, but once we stepped in it, I think there was a way to progress from that point. So let's kind of go back now to shock and awe. You know, we're not doing anything to win the hearts and minds of the Iraqi people with shock and awe, but nevertheless, you know, we go in, we do our lightning attack, Baghdad falls. This is where we have the first major difference. Before we went into Iraq, you know, we had very good intelligence from, you know, people in our own government, you know, telling us what we needed to protect. And so we go in and we make sure that we secure all those things in Baghdad, you know, that are important. And at the very outset, this like lets the Iraqi people know that we're serious, you know, about taking care of their country and our stewardship. And so I think this gets us off on the right foot right there. So there's none of that looting that happens at the beginning. The other thing is you know, we leave you know, Gardner in there at the beginning instead of yanking him when he starts talking about crazy stuff like, you know, elections in 90 days and Iraqi oil for the Iraqis, which is the reason why he got replaced by Bremer pronto. So we leave him in and we let him go forward with his plan for Iraqi elections in 90 days, and we protected all of the important cultural and governmental sites in Baghdad, unlike we actually did, where we only went in there and protected the oil ministry. So we basically, you know, fast forward at this point to the capturing of Saddam Hussein, and along the way, you know, I'm all on board with, you know, whacking Uday and Qusay. You know, as far as I'm concerned, and all the stuff that I've read about them, they're about as scummy as scum can get. So, you know, the fact that they're gone and we find Saddam Hussein, and that's pretty much the end of the story for me. Because at that point, you know, we turn Saddam Hussein over to, you know, our little provisional Iraqi government. And then Bush goes out and makes a message to the world that includes the following elements, hopefully said a little bit better, because I'm just speaking off the cuff here. The United States is a great country, a proud country, but it's not an infallible country. Sometimes we make mistakes. The difference between a country that survives and a country that fails is being able to recognize its mistakes and remedy them. That is why now we're going to unconditionally leave from Iraq with all of our forces. We leave not with just an apology to the Iraqi people for falsely invading their land, despite the benefit that we may have paid them by, you know, finding Saddam Hussein and turning him over to them. It doesn't change the fact that we invaded their country under false pretenses, and that our reasons for bringing our own forces here and for convincing other people to send their forces were false. In recognition of this failure of our intelligence and our sincere wish to help the Iraqi people get back on their feet after the years of sanctions and this unfair war, we're going to arrange payments to the Iraqi government, not loans, but payments. The first year will be $50 billion. The second year will be $50 billion. And then we will continue to give significant amounts of money to Iraq for the remainder of the decade. This is in recognition of what we did and the fact that as a strong nation, we can acknowledge our mistakes and show the world that we're sincere about rebuilding Iraq. For those of you who feel that this war was prosecuted for selfish interests of the United States, such as oil, and a desire to control the global oil market, I say, watch what we do and judge us by our actions. So, after saying that, we do fork over the 50 billion. And remember, the whole thing has cost us $3 trillion so far. So I'm actually talking about a substantial reduction in the amount of money that we've already committed to outlaying, except that this is actually going to do us some good instead of just causing a bigger problem. So the only thing that I think we need to do is, like, behind the scenes, we talk to the provisional government and we say, look, we're not interested in controlling you at all, but we are interested in having a stable government that has some respect for democratic principles in place to give the money to. That being said, we're aware of the fact that you were created as a purposely weak nation with 3 distinct groups that would constantly be at odds with one another. If you choose to divide into 3 separate states, we're also okay with that. And we will find an equitable way of dividing up future payments to Iraq so that you all get money commensurate both to your need and to your desire to or your demonstrated willingness to become democratic states. And basically just leave it in their hands at that point. We come back a year later and it's either 3 separate Iraqi states, Kurds, Shias, and Sunnis, or it's still one unified country. But in any event, we can come back to them at that point, and maybe they're still angry about the war. Filthy imperialist American pig dogs. We voted against you in every resolution in the United Nations for the past year. You will pay for invading our country, and we can just be there. It's like, okay, well, that's all fine and good. You guys can act however you want, but my only question is that money, the $30 billion, do you want that in hundreds or 20s? And, after a few years of just sincerely seeing us, backing off and not trying to affect and just forking over the money, and, starting with a couple payments of, 50 billion and then like maybe trailing off to like, 40, 30, 20, 10, and then like maybe keeping a low level of payments for a while. I mean, compared certainly to what we're paying out now. I think it would be fascinating to see how that kind of experiment would have played out. I mean, I think we would have a very different Middle East right now. I mean, don't you think Iraq would then be our friend? That we would have a friendly government in Iraq, one that would represent us well to the rest of the Arab world, one that would be trying to convince sincerely, not because we're strong-arming them, but would sincerely be like, talking to other Arab nations and saying, hey, you should really listen to what the United States has to say. I mean, I know they came in and they invaded us and everything, and it was kind of emasculating and all that, but, since then, they've been absolutely sincere and completely hands-off, and they're not trying to affect us, but they are making some pretty compelling arguments, and I think you should listen up. See, that's the difference between having friends and countries that fear you. I'm all over having friends in the world. I think we need to have friends in the world, and I'm actually very, very worried that we don't have friends in the world. I think we need to rethink the way that we approach foreign policy and not try to bend people to our will. If we look for friends, I think we'll get friends. If we look for people that fear us, we'll get people that fear us. And people who fear us will eventually try to harm us.